Welcome to It Takes Two, Dating Do's and Don'ts, Part 2, the second episode where we conclude our list of things to make sure to do and avoid in dating. Thanks for tuning in, and we will get started right after our disclaimer.
This podcast only provides information. It's not a viable replacement for a therapy session. If you need help or have an emergency, contact your local mental health authority. Our hosts are experts on mental health. Many of our guests are too. This podcast does not provide expert advice. It's just entertainment, baby. Dates and places have changed. This podcast should never replace real therapy.
All right, Clarissa, number 7.
Offer suggestions for next steps. So if the date went well and you liked the person and you had a good time, then offer suggestions. I feel like it's so much pressure to read, like, did this person like me? What did they think? And so I think if you're direct, which is obviously, now that you heard my terrible first date story, understand like my peeve of dating. But if you're direct, then you would be offering suggestions and saying like, this was such a great time. Next time I'd love to take you to here. Or it would be even cool to like reference something earlier in the conversation. Like if you notice that they really liked something, offering a date in that arena would be cool.
Yeah, you said I've always wanted to go to a demolition derby. I know that there's one coming up next month. Do you want to go together?
Exactly. Yeah. Though a month out is kind of far, but I mean, that's a little scientific. Okay.
Yeah, that's not top of my head.
I think recency is nice, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point.
But
you want to create touch points probably within a week or two.
Because this is a first date.
Right.
So yes, like planning something within that first week would be really important. Because you want to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and being forward, again, it demonstrates confidence and things. So this, like, I just, it was like a really good time, and like, I don't know, maybe you want to like do something another time. No. Just say, I had a great time. I'd love to see you again. Does 2 weekends from now sound good to you? Or, hey, I've loved our conversation. I got to get going. I want to respect your time. Can I give you a call on Thursday night? You got anything going on? Be specific with time, set an expectation. And that's a do. That's a dating do.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on. Avoiding certain topics of conversation. Maybe we should have swapped these.
Wait. Oh, we don't have it on the list. I just was about to say for the offering the next steps, we don't necessarily have this on here, but there was a lot of talk when I was reading like do's and don'ts and researching for today's episode. There was a lot of talk of like, when should you text? When should you like follow up?
Post first date communication standards. And
who should text first and stuff like that. And absolutely do not wait if you liked the date. Don't necessarily like get home, get safe, stuff like that. But if you like the date, don't wait till the next day to text them. Like I would say within that evening, it would be totally appropriate to say, thank you so much. I had a really great time with you. I would love to do. And then you can then offer next steps in that as well.
Yeah.
But basically saying like, it doesn't matter your like which gender, you shouldn't necessarily wait for the other person. Like just be direct and forward because it does convey confidence.
Absolutely. And if you get left on red, that's fine. And it's okay to be left on red. It's okay to be ghosted. It's normal. Again, there's this weird rejection aversion when it comes to dating and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. It's normal. And just normalize it. It's just like a normal thing. But I will say, always do at least one follow-up.
Yeah.
If you're left on red, if you liked it, and you get left on red, wait 2 to 3 days and follow up. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But after that, the ball's in their court. Move on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Number 8 is avoiding certain topics, okay? I'm going to name 3. We could spend a lot of time talking about all of them, But there's this, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Being genuine and being authentic doesn't mean you have to go, neck deep with all of these topics that you feel strongly about. That could potentially be polarizing and create conflict and controversy. So avoid the certain topics on your first date. Don't talk about your exes, ever. Don't even talk about your previous dating experiences. It's a bad idea. But what about this? No. Can it? Talk about it on your 6th date if you want, maybe.
Because think about it, like the person on the date does not want, again, similarly to what I said earlier, they don't want to be like, oh, this is what it's like to be on a date with you.
Yes.
They just need to experience it on their own. You do not need to tell them about your exes. You don't need to tell them about your past dating. Just let them experience it. And then, like later on down the road, that should be something that comes up because like we support transparency and being open. It's just also a little bit of tact is sexy and nice.
100%. And I don't even know if you'll agree with me on this, but this is my personal take. If you are divorced, you don't need to mention that in the first date for similar reasons. You are there to get to know that person, to be interacting with them in that moment, in that present time and place. I don't think it's relevant to bring up those types of things unless they're explicitly asked for. I think that's a little bit different. It's like someone's like, hey, have you ever been married? And you're like, I don't want to talk about that right now.
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
But for you to just like be like blurt out like, by the way, I'm divorced. You don't need to do that on your first date.
No.
You don't need to talk about your exes, your past relationships, or your previous marital status.
Really, the person is just getting a snapshot in time of you right then and there. And like that, all that background information that is heavier, they don't need to know that until they even know if they want to go on another date. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
It's not relevant. So I actually do agree, unless explicitly asked, because that would be awkward to just withhold or lie. Don't lie. That would be really bad. Just don't lie. Even if they ask and you don't want to
lie,
like, and you don't like to talk about it, you just simply say like, oh yeah, I have been married before. That's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And set boundaries on the first date. That's totally fine to do.
Yeah, that's
like,
interesting.
Just be like, yeah, I was married previously. Honestly, though, I'd much rather just talk about you and me tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. If we end up having a good time, I'd be happy to tell you about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Other topics to avoid: religion.
Which is so hard in Utah.
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of our listeners could potentially be Utah folk. I think that's going to be really hard.
Yeah. It's funny because I think Mormon religiosity is so obvious.
That's
generally
fair.
Like because of wearing garments or
what the date is.
You're
like,
being asked for hot chocolate instead of going for coffee.
Yeah, that's
Are we going
fair.
to drinks or are we going to snow cones? So I feel like there's a lot of contextual obviousness, but religion in general is just not a good topic for first dates. And then this one is unequivocally a topic to avoid is politics. Don't listen to me. I know a lot of you feel very strongly about your political leanings and you want to know immediately if they are a Biden, pro-Biden or pro-Trump, like because you're not going to date someone from the other side. Let me just invite you to not let that interfere with your first interaction with a human being. It's not worth it. You'll be happier if you just wait. I promise.
Yeah. And honestly, how do any of those things really, really, truly give you an understanding of who that person is?
Careful. Because a lot of people have very strong feelings like, oh, if you're pro-Trump, then you are a racist, blah, blah, blah. And if you're pro-Biden, then you hate freedom and you hate democracy. Like, people can answer your question very strongly immediately.
Well, all I'm saying is those religion and politics are a system that somebody is a part of. It's not them.
Great point.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So get to know them. And if they say something that helps you understand their religion or politics, then there you go. But
yeah,
that's only a system that they're a part of. It's not them. I'm just going to leave it there.
Well, no, and that's a great point. And again, I think personality comes out and values come out pretty quickly and early on, and you'll deduce that from other topics of conversation.
Yeah. And if it's really important, then you'll find out after you like them enough to go on more than one date.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. Topics to talk about. Again, 10 out of 10 recommend if you're worried about what to talk about. Travel, family, hobbies and interests. Those are really, like, you could spend multiple hours just talking about those 4 topics.
Yeah.
There used to be like an acronym that I knew. I can remember.
I did see in my research, though, that like past heavy trauma is very similar to like exes, religion, and politics, where if you have like really heavy family trauma, then you don't necessarily need to like divulge all of that.
I'm talking more like, how many siblings do you have? Oh, you're the oldest. Same, fam. Oh, lol. Like, isn't it the worst? Like, the youngest gets away with so much. You know what I mean? Like, finding ways to connect and relate to the person through family.
Okay, that's fair.
But not being like, I'm not even going to give an example. Okay, number 9. Clarissa. Number 9.
Number 9 is understanding appropriate physical touch and consent.
Okay, so again, this is going to be different for a lot of different people.
Very.
Some people are like, oh yeah, I'll hook up on the first date. Like, full blown, like I'll have sex on the first date. And some people will be like, I won't even kiss on the first date.
Yeah.
So this is a wide ranging, very subjective do's and don't. But when it comes to that key word that you said, consent, tell us more about that.
This is actually really interesting because when it comes to like small physical touches, I feel like you don't necessarily always ask for consent.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it could be polite at the end to be like, if you don't actually know where they're at based on vibes, then it could be polite to be like, can I give you a hug goodbye? Or like,
yeah, or like even when you introduce yourself on the date, you're like, hey, normally I give hugs. Is that okay with you?
Yes, like something like that. Yeah, it's so good to meet.
Okay, great. Hug.
Yes. But other forms of, again, this is not for sexual, like, touch stuff or kissing even. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But for stuff like putting your hand on their hand or touching their elbow or touching their shoulder, like some of those things, you really, really need to be aware of the person that you're talking with, because it's like the flirting if you work off of each other. Like if the momentum is building, then it's building, and don't hesitate to do those small non-sexual physical touch things on a first date.
Yeah.
But then for a first date, if we're talking kissing, then I think if you got the read that the momentum built over the date and that was a possibility, then maybe you ask them, like, how do you feel about kissing on the first date? Not when you're about to kiss them.
Right.
But at dinner.
Yeah.
If you, or whatever the date is, at the activity, if you feel like the momentum is building. And if they say, I don't, like, no, I would never, then don't. Like, just don't.
Yeah.
Even if you felt the vibes were good, don't.
Yep.
Unless they initiate. If they were to initiate and you were comfortable with it, that might be okay.
And we should talk about initiating, because women, contrary to popular belief, women actually do initiate the first kiss interaction more often than not.
Yeah?
Yeah, the prolonged eyes. The look at the eyes with, very minimal blinking. It's a lot of giving permission. But again, we don't want to misread that. So I love what you said about consent first. But I mean, this is in popular media, the whole 90-10 rule, that's a good rule. Like, if you're trying to initiate a kiss, you don't go all the way. You only go a certain distance, and then they meet you.
That is such a good rule.
That is a nonverbal consent.
Yeah, that's such a good rule. I mean, that's like Hitch 101. Do you
remember
that movie?
100%. Yeah, I think
Everyone
it's from that.
learned that
the
from
90-10.
Hitch.
Yeah. And
that's so true.
And so again, like, because physical touch is an important part in building romance and intimacy and connection. And so if you ladies or guys, maybe you do put your hand on the knee, and like Clarissa said, Just base their reaction. Do they flinch? Okay, whoa, they don't like that kind of physical attention. Do they not do anything? In fact, they maintain eye contact. Well, they're probably okay with it.
Yeah. But if you're at like coffee, dinner, drinks, and you're sitting next to each other or across from each other at a table, then I also think like the 90-10 rule could apply to like putting your hand on the table towards them.
Yeah. So it's like I put it like this
towards them.
You.
And then I would,
Yeah.
Then I might, or even like up to like
having
almost
your hand
asking
up.
for their hand.
Dude, you totally did that on our second date.
I did.
You totally did. We were driving in the car to Blickenstaff, and you had.
No, it was home from Blickenstaff.
Okay.
We argue about this, but I remember it was going home.
And your hand was out in between us, and I was like, "Oh, her hand's
on
up.
the center console."
On the center, I'm like, no girl puts her hand on the center console up unless she wants it held, and so I went and held her hand, and it was cute.
Or maybe it was on my thigh, but yeah, I did put my hand out there as an offering, and I'm glad you saw it because that would have been like a little bit of a bummer. But even if you hadn't, then I probably still would have like kept myself available for that.
Yes.
Maybe somebody misses the cue or something, so you don't want to like get dejected right away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I do think that for a first date, to keep it like, if you're gonna end up having sex on a first date, then you are gonna end up asking for sex or for consent, like
no matter what.
You just are like that. Yeah, that's gonna happen. But I was gonna say, if not sex, if just non-sexual touch, then I think it is good to, if the vibes are going well and the build up, right, like you're playing off of each other, is going well, then it is good to like put in a little bit of touch, like
absolutely,
whether it is just like a little hand on their back while you're walking away, or like just something small, so it expresses interest and openness. But don't do that if you're not feeling it.
Absolutely.
I think that goes without saying, but
yeah. Let's blast through a few more of these real quick. Number 10. Be kind and respectful to servers and staff. Okay, I remember listening to this one. I learned this when I was younger than even dating age. I remember being a kid, and I was at a restaurant, and there was like a conflict between somebody, and you could tell the person was just being a jerk to the server. And servers have a hard life, okay? That is a rough job. And so I remember being told, especially on a date, because it was obvious that this person was on a date, that the person you're on a date with will see how you treat servers and staff, and they will perceive that to be how you will treat them behind or outside of the dating context. And also it's just not cool to be a dick, like just
so true.
Just be nice and
just
kind.
Be nice.
Yeah, don't act entitled.
Yeah.
I think kind.
From like a woman's perspective, that was one of my biggest, I mean probably still is, pet peeves about men in dating is, and it's more often men, it's not exclusively men, but is how men sometimes treat other people. Men can like tend to be bullies.
Yeah. And
it always peeved me so much, and it was the biggest turnoff to a guy if a guy was like a bully to other people. Hated it.
Yeah. Can I share a story it was actually on your birthday a few years ago when we were at this really fancy restaurant?
I can't remember.
Okay, so it was Clarissa's birthday. We went to this really fancy brunch place, and to be candid, my friend and I had a little bit to drink, or maybe like a decent amount,
and
especially for not having a lot of food. So we were a little tipsy, and my friend's wife was coming back from the bathroom, and some dude had like blocked her path and like wouldn't move out of the way. And so
it was actually to me. That's what's funny.
It was to you?
Yeah.
Oh, but she said it was.
But she got she flipped out about it, and I was just like, whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I didn't even remember that. I didn't realize that. Anyway, she comes back down and tells us about how rude this guy was. And my buddy and I stand up ready to go. We're like, oh yeah, we're going to show that guy. Where is he? And we stand up, and you and the wife were like, no, it's
not that big of a deal.
And then me and my buddy were like, oh, we're going to get him. And then the waiter came up and was like, hey, what's going on? And he de-escalated us like a pro.
Yeah.
This guy was incredible.
Yeah.
He was validating. He just knew how to work this.
I got it. I'll take care of it.
I'm going to make sure that gets taken care of. You two just enjoy the rest of your meal. That shouldn't be something you worry about. I'm going to go take care of this. And he just placated us. It was great. But you and the wife were really upset that we were doing that.
Which is funny. Yeah. Yep. Very upset. I just think that behavior is just not cute.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's too intense. It's not warranted most of the time. Most of the time, you can de-escalate many situations. So,
and especially because it wasn't a worthwhile thing.
No.
Like if somebody had actually offended you and we were defending your honor
hurt me
in
or,
some way.
like totally get it. Yep.
But just like getting in the way, and me and my buddy were like, "Oh, we're gonna get him." Yeah, we went a little bit over the top. Okay, Clarissa, this one circles back a little bit to your dating story.
Yes.
In the modern era, 2024, it is more and more common for both parties to pay for a date. Whether man, woman, woman, man, 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 woman, woman. You split it.
Yep.
More often than not.
Yep.
So when you're not sure, especially again, because we're in Utah, it's a little bit more traditional of a culture. Maybe the guy is more expected to pay, but it's like unknown. Kind of like your situation, honestly, when you were, and that was 10 years ago when you had yours.
Yeah.
What is the do here? What is the do for when you don't know who's going to pay?
I think it would be, if you have the means, great to offer to pay. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, offer to pay. And if they are also have the means, then likely they're going to be like, no, I got it. Then offer to split. How do you feel about splitting it? If you
I want to cover. I want to pay for it. What do you do then?
In my opinion, I would pay the tip. If you're at like a dinner or something like that. Like some type of small gesture. Well, let me get the tip.
Yeah.
And if they still resist, then just be like, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate it. But
yes,
I think it goes a long way to offer if you have the means. And so that would be really great. I also think if you don't have the means, then you should probably be clear about that going into the date. Even if you're the woman and you expect like, and traditionally the man has been paying, like, you should probably express like, hey, thank you so much for asking me to dinner. I mean, it's going to be a little bit awkward, but like, I really didn't budget dinner tonight. Can I count on you to get dinner?
And I got next or something.
Yeah.
Like
and I'll get next.
Yeah.
But just to go in blind, if you don't have the money, I think that's really stressful, in my opinion.
For sure.
So I would be really clear. And I think it also conveys responsibility. Like, financial responsibility is attractive and important. And so if you are being responsible, even if your budget is tight, then I think that would go further than the absence of the conversation, I guess.
Absolutely. And gentlemen, I have something specific to say to you. Okay? It is not emasculating to have a woman pay for the date. It doesn't mean that you're not chivalrous. It doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean that you aren't a good provider. That is not how the world works anymore. Okay? This isn't 1954.
No.
So get that out of your head. So if this happens to you and they say, hey, do you want to split? Or you say, I want to pay. And then your date says, oh, no, I got it. Let's split it. And you say, no, I insist. I insist to cover it. Okay, let me pay the tip at least. Don't you dare say no after that third attempt by your date to pay for something, because it's important to them. If they want to show that responsibility, don't say no to somebody 3 times, because then you just seem obstinate, really. And you're like, you might come across as patriarchal and dominating and over authoritative and old school and ultra traditional, which might turn your date off. So let if they want to split or tip, let them. Now, ladies, I have a request for you as well. Do not date guys to get free meals. Okay? I have heard multiple women and men tell me this story over and over and over again, that They take advantage of people to not really want to build connections or whatever. They really just want free meals. That's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty unethical, candidly. And that actually leads to a pro tip of mine, personally, which is hilarious because this is going to lead to our controversial stat that we're about to share. My opinion is a first date should not include a fancy dinner or be very expensive. I think the first date should be coffee or froyo or, you know, whatever low stakes, casual, conversational type environment. You aren't trying to flex or show off. You're just truly there in an opportune moment in a public setting to connect with somebody and to feel out if this is going to be a good fit, if it's going to be worth doing multiple dates.
I like it.
Should I drop that controversial stat?
Sure.
Because my opinion is not what research has shown. A survey of 2,000 people, Americans specifically, looked at the costs of dating and relationships within the past year, and the average respondent had gone on 8 dates in the past 6 months, costing on average $189 each. This lines up with what respondents estimate a good date should cost, $196. But 1 in 8 expect to spend even more, at least $300 on each date night. Results showed that men have higher expectations, believing that good dates should cost about $220, while the average woman believes a good date costs $170 in this economy.
I am so blown away by those numbers. Like, I don't know if it's just like dating in Utah where you date all the time and you're college and you're young. Like, are these people 30-year-olds or are these people like, but even now I'm nearing 30. If I was single, I would not spend $196 on a date. That is out of this world.
No way.
That's like what I spend when I go shopping on a shopping spree day. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is, and they said 8 dates in the past 6 months. Okay, I feel like that's not even that. That's like a little over 1 date a month, and no wonder you can't afford to go out on more dates.
Charles and I budget every month, and in our budget we have something called entertainment. Entertainment is for like fun times, dates, gaming, whatever we use on our entertainment. We have a couples entertainment and a personal entertainment. Our entire entertainment between couples and personal is $200 for 1 month. We do not spend that much per date.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I have got to find what is costing this much. And is it like because they live in a city? Like, was this study done in New York City?
Exactly. So I asked myself this question. Fancy ass restaurant. You both pay $50 a plate. That's $100 right there.
Is it alcohol?
It has to be. I think it has to be because then you go. So like, let's say you do dinner, then you go to a movie. It's about $40 to $50 each with concessions and whatnot. So now you're at $150, and then you go out for drinks after. That's easily $50-$60. So now you're getting up to that $200 to $300. But I'm like, dude, that is so much time. And that actually leads to our number 12.
I would never spend that much time on a first date if I didn't like the person.
Exactly.
I would never plan that much time.
I would never spend 6 hours with somebody on a first date.
No.
Which leads to our number 12, which is respect time boundaries and to keep it brief, no longer than 3 hours. Mm-hmm. And that's what survey respondents said in the data and the research is that first date should not be longer than 3 hours. So how are you spending $300 in 3 hours?
I don't know. That's so wild.
That is insane.
That is so wild to me.
Yeah. It's incredible. Anyway, just real quick on this one, keeping it brief, 2 to 3 hours. You know, that you don't want to go too long on a first date. Mm-mm. You kind of want to go in, have a nice little, and it builds the romance. It builds suspense. It makes the person want to know more about you when they only get a taste of who you are. Yeah.
Yes. I think like that would be classy is to plan it for 2 to 3 hours.
Yes.
I think if sparks are flying off the charts, it's the greatest date you've ever been on, and you all want to keep going on a date, like that can be arranged while on the date, but you should never plan that ahead of time, because what if you don't like the person and you just planned a 6-hour date? That sounds terrible.
That does sound terrible. That sounds so terrible.
And on that note, I would never, for a first date, I would never plan something where you pay ahead.
Oh, yeah.
What if they cancel?
Oh, no. My buddy in Arizona was telling me about how that happened to him. And that it really sucked. And he tried selling the tickets and he couldn't. And so...
Like a concert would cost about probably $200 to $300.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But I would never buy concert tickets for a first date.
Yeah. Why would you go to you can't even talk.
That's true. Yeah. But again, I would do something where you do not put money up front. It's just as it goes. And it's brief and small.
I mean, to be fair, if you really like a girl and you told her that you have Era Tour tickets to Taylor Swift, I'm pretty sure that girl would say yes.
Well, then you better have been friends with that girl beforehand, because what if you go to Era's tour and you're trying to impress her, but then you don't even like her?
That's a good point.
Then you could have gone with somebody else.
Oh, that's good. That's a great point. Again, like second, third dates, yeah, send it. Go hard. On that note, another personal data. This is an anecdote, and it's not even mine. It's from my roommate. Him and his buddies, while we were in college, they were dating a whole bunch of girls, okay? And when they turned them down for a fourth or fifth date or whatever, whenever they got to that point, they would ask the girl straight up, why didn't you want to go on another date? What was it about this, that, or the other? Yeah. And they would like survey their dates and ask them why, what was it that turned them off? And one of the most overwhelming pieces of feedback that they got was that the guy did not try to kiss them by the third date.
What?
Overwhelming. And in fact, like they started asking other girls that they were friends with, that they weren't dating, and be like, hey, if a guy doesn't try to kiss you by the third date, what does that tell you? And they're like, oh, they're not interested.
I guess that makes a lot of sense.
So this is the pro tip I have to give to you, gentlemen or ladies. If you're on a third date, you best be getting a kiss by the end of it. Or at least trying. You know what I mean? Which I think is actually a fair amount. If you spend if you spend 2 hours a date, that's 6 hours with a person, and you haven't built that chemistry with them to test those romantic waters, it's probably not going to work out.
Either kiss or don't plan a fourth date.
Yeah. Yeah. Clarissa, do you want to share our first date story?
Yeah.
See how many do's and don'ts we did.
Ooh, that's actually interesting.
It's actually kind of funny.
I didn't think about that.
I can tell you all the don'ts that I did immediately because I did a bunch. Okay, so first off, context. The first date, Clarissa and I had been friends for over a year. Mm-hmm. We had actually built a lot of chemistry.
Yeah, tons.
And but I thought you were unavailable.
Yeah.
And so there was this big dance coming up, the Emerald Ball, and I wasn't planning on going, and everybody in our friend circle was going, basically.
Yeah, this is college prom, basically.
Yep, college prom. And everybody we knew was basically going. And so my work schedule changed last minute. It was the day of. And I'm like, oh, I really want to go now. And so I called Clarissa to go as a friend. It wasn't even to go as like a romantic, first date. Because first off, gentlemen, don't ask a girl you want to be serious with to prom on the first date. You know what I mean? Like that's a big first date. So I was going because I wanted to go and she was my friend. I knew we'd have a good time. And so this is the first date don't. Don't ask a girl to prom on our first date. Second, do not ask that girl to prom an hour and a half before prom was supposed to start. Okay? That girl's got to get a dress. She's got to get her hair did. She's probably going to go all out for this level of a formal event. So that was my two no-nos immediately. But fortunately, when I called her, I asked, hey, do you have plans tonight? She responded, tentative plans. Because you don't want to be too available.
No way.
You can't be too available. And so I invited her and she said, I think I can make that work.
I did say that. And honestly, my plans really weren't that concrete, but I also didn't want to say no.
Yeah.
It was Friday night. Come on.
Yeah.
And also, I just didn't know what you were really asking up front because we were friends before, but that's different. I did end up finding a dress, and it was very last minute. And I also was not feeling very well that day because I got food poisoning from my lunch.
Yikes.
So I was actually pretty nauseous, but I still went.
Yeah, you champed it out.
I didn't even tell you. I just kept it together.
It was impressive.
And when we went, I also, you told me that it was like an intimate dinner at home, basically.
Yep.
And we show up and it was like 20 people.
Yeah, I did not. I misunderstood the instructions. No, I misunderstood.
Because I thought intimate dinner meant that it was going to be me and you.
Oh, I knew there was going to be I thought there was going to be 4 couples, is what I thought. I thought there was going to be 4 couples at a table in the apartments. Then we were doing a home cooked meal with enchiladas and jarritos.
Which also, I hate enchiladas, which is funny.
Yeah, it was hilarious, which I didn't know.
That's like the one Mexican food that I don't like, which is hilarious.
So not only was there more than 8 people, there was like 20.
There was like 20 in one small apartment. It was very intense.
And you and I basically just talked the whole time to each other.
Yeah, and I actually think that is something that was a do, is that we kind of pretended like we were the only ones on the date. Yeah. And I think if you are on a group date, that's a great play, like pretend like you're the only ones kind of thing.
Totally.
In an appropriate way, like don't ignore the people per se. But
well, just real quick on that note, group dates as a first date, great idea. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Low stakes, casual, especially if you have mutual friends.
Yeah, that's true.
A group date, first date can be an awesome way to go.
Yeah, it's safe for sure. But I think another way with that is like we were present. I feel like we were really present with each other despite being in all these like social settings, which I think was a very good do.
Definitely. So we finish up dinner and we go to the Emerald Ball, the prom, and we take photos, and it's really cute. We still have them.
They are.
And we start dancing together in the ball, in the prom. And when we talk about that physical touch and kind of like building off of each other, that was another do that we did. You know, we were dancing, next to each other, but, we'd bump into each other. And like when it was a slow song, we would like slow dance or whatever. And you were sending me very positive signals, which was surprising to me because, again, I thought you were unavailable. So, she would give me some good eyes and I would return the eyes. And then, when I said, oh, I'm going to go grab a drink, I'd, reach out and like touch her arm and be like, hey, like, would you like a drink? And I'd hold it there and she'd be like, yeah, I'd love one. And then I'd walk off, just like building those moments and feeling that chemistry and that reciprocal touch. And then, when I got back, she grabbed my arm or, whatever it might be. And it really was amongst that I'm like, oh, you know what? This girl might want to be more than friends. I was picking up some of those cues, that body language. And so then it was super fun. And anything about the dance you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. I mean, the dance and like the following moments, the points that I wanted to share were more of like, building off what you were saying just now, as far as like I gave a lot of eyes, and I also knew that we had been friends and that we were going kind of like friends. I mean, I didn't know that, but like knew it, like
yeah. I didn't explicitly say,
you asked
Clarissa,
me,
will you go as my friend? That's not what I just asked her to the ball.
Day of, like if we weren't going as friends, I feel like you would have asked me like a couple weeks prior. You know what I mean? Like it was the day of. So I made a very conscious effort to make it very known through my body language and my flirting that I wanted you. Because I did have a crush on you. Yeah. Despite having a if you're LDS, you understand that language, but look it up if you aren't. I had a missionary, so I was unavailable, but I liked you a lot for a while. And so I was making a very conscious effort, like lots of intention on my part.
Yeah. Yeah.
To make it known.
Yeah. And it worked because as we were walking out of the ball to head back to the apartment complexes, again, this is a physical touch consent thing that happened. I stuck my arm out like this, elbow out, and offered, and Clarissa pushed her hand up through my arm and elbow and
held your arm,
held my arm and kind of leaned into me. Yeah. I flexed a little bit, you know.
Did you?
Got to give her a little bit of the gun show.
Oh my gosh. You would.
And yeah, we walked out and we just walked out into the cold night, and it was magical. I remember feeling just like very connected, very close to you. And
yeah. And I think like there were some words exchanged of like between both of us of being glad that we went together and like having a good time. And I think I had made it like, I think I had said like there's nothing else I would have wanted to do tonight kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
thank you so much kind of thing.
Yeah. And expressing gratitude for the day is huge.
Yeah.
Like that's a great thing to do. And I had to go to work that night. I had a midnight
night shift. Yeah.
And so but again, the do of offering suggestions for next steps, I said explicitly to you, I really want to continue our conversation that we had.
Yeah. Which was also specific, like referencing something specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I asked, like, when would you be available? Mm-hmm. And I think we settled on Sunday night or Saturday night or something.
Sunday.
And that's kind of how it started. Now, if you say, well, Charles, that wasn't really a first date because you went as friends, I agree with you. I think our true first date was the next date, which was to Blickenstaff, because I went into that date with, I like this girl. I'm gonna
as a friend.
I'm not like
Blickenstaff.
I want to pursue her, and so that's when
a
lot more of the romance and flirtation and a lot more of those things came out.
Before you get to that though, we did go to your apartment afterwards after the dance.
We did.
For just a few moments because you did have to go to work, but you were available for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And at that, there was also body language on both parts of like expressing interest.
True.
And then we did meet up on Sunday and we did talk, but I wouldn't say that was a date.
Right. No. And again, I practiced the 2 to 3 hours, keep it brief. Both times. When I did go over to hang out, I could have stayed and hung out longer, but I think it had been about 2 hours, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
I didn't need to go, but I did because again, like that's just part of this.
The build up. I get it, and I don't, because like I would have loved for you to stay longer, but.
Exactly. I wanted to leave you a little, wanting a little bit more. That's exactly
I get
the
it.
point.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely worked.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If you want to do that, it will work.
Yeah. It's hard because, I agree in general with this idea of don't play games. Don't play games with people. 100% agree with that. And romance does require finesse. It
art.
It asks for nuance and a lot of people take it too far, but it is important to build suspense, to have some mystery, to have some chemistry. And that nuance is really, really tough to articulate and explain and master. We're going to try through this dating series. We're going to try our best to provide some actionable steps and some research and data that can help. But yeah, I feel like that's a really good example is if you just keep it between 2 to 3 hours each time during the early dating phase, it just allows for a building of that chemistry.
I agree. Did you want to share about our second date, which was probably more like a first date?
Yeah, I'll just briefly.
Okay.
I think so I asked her to this group event. I guess you could have technically called it a group date, but we didn't go with people specifically. It was like a bunch of people on dates going to this location. And
some not on dates.
That's true. And there were people there who were just...
It was an event that we went to on a date.
Right. And the whole time, again, there's lots of flirting and jokes. And my personality is I'm a big jokester. Like I love to crack jokes and laugh. And a lot of our banter had been a little bit of like teasing each other, and so that was there. And again, looking for opportunities to have some physical touch. And again, as you mentioned before, that momentum was building. There was a lot of reciprocal attraction and attention there. we shared stories. But again, like we had talked so much prior from the Emerald Ball and through all that we really just sent it in the fun department. Like we really were there and just having so much fun.
Yeah, I do remember I was similar to the Emerald Ball, kind of singling you out. Like
Yes.
we were at a group event on a date, and there was lots of people we knew at this event, and I still was kind of like creating opportunities to make it feel like it was just us two on the date.
And I echo that. I do not feel like I went on a group date that night.
Yeah.
I felt like I went on a date with you and there were other people there. Like that's really how it feels to me. Mm-hmm. And it was great. We had a great time. I think we did end up buying some stuff, like some treats or candies or something.
I don't remember that.
I do. Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Or like sodas. It was because they had the soda rack. And I told you about like all the vintage sodas that I liked trying, and
because it was like a charity event at a toy store. So I'm guessing the money went to funds to buy Christmas for kids.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm guessing we probably did buy something like drinks or
stuff like that.
Maybe something like that.
And then again, on the drive home, she's got her hand out like we talked about, hand palm up on the console. And so of course that was my message to grab that hand. And we drove home together, and as I was walking her to her apartment, there was this dingus running through the halls, and so we walked very, very slowly to wait until dingus had gotten out of the way. And I don't know. You can just kind of tell. He's like, this is the moment. This is the moment that I'm going to kiss this person. The chemistry's there. The sparks are flying. The eyes are going back and forth. And so, sure enough, we get to her door, and I said audibly in my mind. But in my mind, like very clearly, I said, if as she gets to her door, she turns and looks at me, I'm going to kiss her. That was my pep talk I gave myself.
I thought it was if she looks at me after a hug, like if she prolonged.
Yes, that would be So I gave her a hug.
I think it's important because we're teaching.
No, that's a good point.
I mean,
that's
people
a good
might
point.
gain something from this.
That's absolutely right. So I was giving her a hug goodbye, and I thought, exactly that. If when we pull away, she looks me in the eyes, I'm going to kiss her, and that's exactly what happened. So I gave her a hug. It was a nice long hug. And then as we pulled away, she made eye contact with me, and we held it for just a moment. And then 90-10, we did the 90-10, and it was the alfalfa, like peach plum alfalfa, if you're familiar with that. No. A peach is a peach. Plum is with like a plum.
Gross.
And then alfalfa, you can get the idea.
Yeah.
And it was an alfalfa. It was just like it was like
3-in-1 is what I would have said.
It was like a 15-second kiss maybe.
Yeah.
And it was romantic, it was passionate, it was smooth and calm, but exciting at the same time. There was just so much build up to that, and I felt like it just came out and it's just like a beautiful moment. And similar, you have to keep it within that right time frame, right? Like if I just macked you for like 10 minutes right then and there, it wouldn't have been the same.
No.
It wouldn't have been as magical.
No, because it did leave me desiring more.
Exactly. And so pulled away, I've got this big, I can almost feel the goofy smile I felt back then, like trying to play it cool, like, oh yeah, like just cool. Pulling away and being like, I'll see you around, or some sort of goodbye. And then I turned around and started walking down the hall, and it took everything within me not to like skip, like all happy. And I had a big old goofy grin on my face as I was walking away. And what did you do after?
I shut the door and I leaned against the wall and slid down the wall. It was very much like a movie. I've never acted that way, but the kiss was so good, and I had liked you for so long, and so it just felt so And so I just like leaned against the wall and just like slid it down it and just like, that was so great.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I like him so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was sweet.
Yeah. What did you do when you got to the stairwell? Huh?
I did one of these. Yeah. Like literally like the fist pump, like the like yes, like
Woo!
Yep. Like
One of those kind of thing.
I think it was like yeah, I don't know, like one of those. You know, it's been a long time, but
years.
It was definitely
years.
like sweet. That was awesome.
Cute.
Yeah, that was a really cute story. And yeah, it's fun. It's fun sharing that. And of course, guys, like this, you know, have couples made out hardcore on their first date and it's been a wonderful marriage? Absolutely. You know, like this isn't everyone's experience, and you know, take everything we say with a grain of salt, and this is a lot of you know, anecdote, but we are trying to share some tools and techniques that do have a lot of research behind them to make your dating more normalized, more comfortable, more authentic and genuine to you. And whatever your story ends up being, you know, we hope that it's filled with romance and love and connection and happiness, because again, that the data shows that the most fulfilling life we can live is when we find a partner.
That's so true.
So I'm glad I found mine.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about our connection question and date idea?
Absolutely. For the connection question, date idea, I was thinking about it along the way, and I've been thinking that it'd be really cool to do a little bit of like a challenge, like challenge the listeners to go on a first date. And for the people who are in committed relationships, I want you to pretend to take your committed partner on a first date. So like a 2 to 3 hour date where I'm still on the thought for people who are in a committed relationship, but also this applies actually across the board. What I'm asking is a 2 to 3 hour date where you are practicing what we've talked about, where you are practicing your body language and asking open-ended questions and listening. And so for the connection question, I want you to at least ask several open-ended questions that are not yes or no. And with like committed partners, because I think that there's lots in our listeners, this would still be really great because it would build connection in your relationship. And then if you're single, I think it'd be just really fun to like try and put some of this to play and let us know how it goes.
Yes. I love that. And again, please send us your dating stories. I cannot wait. Again, we have so many topics on the dating playlist that we're creating, a whole bunch of different episodes. This is obviously part 1 and 2 of dating do's and don'ts. Just to preview a few more of these, check this out. The art of flirting, as you mentioned, online dating and how it's different, matchmaking and understanding compatibility, dating after divorce, dealing with dating rejection and rejection sensitivity dysphoria, a deep dive into communication, specifically texting, calling, DMs, monogamy versus ethical non-monogamy, dating red flags, building a sustainable relationship from the beginning, dating etiquette, modern versus old school, the science of love, what's happening in the brain, workplace dating. So if you have some workplace dating stories, we'd love those for that episode. The role of friends and family in dating, that one's going to be interesting. And then the impact of past relationships on current dating, just to name a few of the episodes that we have in store for you listeners. So please send us your dating stories. We would love to include those on any of those episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah. We would love that. We are going to be flexible about the content that we're sharing. So last week we had shared, or last episode, we had shared a mental health episode. This time we're sharing dating. Next time we might share couples, might share mental health. We're not sure. We're just kind of going with the flow here, but those are our dating ideas. So we would love for you to give some content to our episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to hear more of a certain topic, we'd love to hear about that as well. We haven't done this before. It's episode 15. It's the first time we're asking. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really does helps us know what we can do to better help serve this community and to spread this wonderful, good message
Yes.
of mental health throughout the community.
Yes, and included in that, if you really like the pod, it would be great for you to leave a review
Yes.
on the Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you are listening.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, this is Charles.
And Clarissa signing off.
Now just remember, for things to get better,
For me and you,
it takes two.
two.
Want to go on a date?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Not tonight, but another night.